gibberish.
Ah, there we go. All right, excellent. Got it. Okay. Well, the good thing is, if you guys want to do an augmented reality project, you would probably want to break the project up anyway. So you'd have content creators, you'd have, so not everybody would need to, be, finalizing it in Aero. So, so that's good. And there's like recordings and 2D art assets, 3D art assets. I'm kind of curious too, just to get a feel for the group. Augmented reality takes place in three-dimensional space in the real world. And tends to, so 3D stuff works really well in the space. Also animation. 2D stuff does work in the space. Particularly, I've seen really cool work with graffiti, with augmented graffiti. And 2D and 3D space, you can create a unique experience with it, and maybe in some ways even a less commercial experience. There's it's fairly easy to import 2D assets into Aero, and we'll go through that in a little bit. And the other thing is, lost my train of thought, but I was curious. So how many people work in 3D and are comfortable in with 3D modeling or 3D animation?
I used to. I learned on 3D Max.
Oh, you'll be great then, because
and I've done After Effects 3D, like created environments and stuff with After Effects. So I'm comfortable with that. I'm not as comfortable with modeling and stuff anymore. I just feel like I've gotten to the point where my wrist and my head don't get along with 3D modeling that much anymore.
Yeah.
But 2D in 3D environments, I can for sure.
Awesome. And so those are you guys could decide to choose a project that's 2D based, or you could try moving into the 3D space. There's a couple ways to do it. There's a gazillion models now online, so you could work, and even within Aero there's models, so you could work with existing models. You can do things like reskin models, like in the Grand Theft Bicycle piece. We were able to take an existing model and transform it into something else. So that's also an option if you don't have those chops. It's nice. It sounds like a couple people in the group do, though. So, and again, you could lean on those people for those types of assets potentially. If you're interested in learning more about animation, again, I find the 2D stuff, like the augmented graffiti. I've seen tattoos as well. If you have tattoos, you can actually use them as an image anchor and create like virtual animations or augmented animations on top of your own tattoos, which is pretty cool. So there's stuff you can do, but yeah, it could be a good opportunity for some people in the group to learn a little bit more about 3D environments. So I think we will get going. So most people's is 2D work. Actually, why don't we do a quick, I'm just curious about the mediums that people mainly work in. Starting with you.
Well, seriously, as an artist, I've been doing painting, sculptural painting, stuff like that. But through my work at the architecture firm, 3D modeling is pretty regular part of my job. So that's pretty fun. I'll add, actually, if people are thinking about doing 3D stuff, I've been playing around with just working with basic SketchUp stuff and transporting that into Aero, and it works no problem.
Nice.
Textures, I did a couple playing around with formats, but that makes it really simple because you can SketchUp free. You can make the stuff.
It's free and a little bit more accessible.
Really quick. So that's been no problem.
Awesome. So you've got at least someone with a couple people with 3D chops in the group, which is good. Don't necessarily need to do something 3D. I like sometimes taking limitations and using them as constraints. I think you could do some really neat stuff with 2D in an augmented space. So I like the concept that it's hidden, like there are these hidden things embodied in the environment. And I think there's some cool work that could be done around that. Let's watch, so quickly, I think, let's watch a quick video. It's very short, just a couple minutes. I just want to show, this was an augmented reality art festival that took place in Italy a few years back. And let's just check out a few things from that. The people that are logged in remotely, you can see the video. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. Okay, awesome. If you've been to art school, you recognize that picture. I apologize, the soundtrack for this is really bad, but yeah. The idea that it moves art into public spaces kind of naturally. Is this kind of a large scale version of what you guys do?
Vorrei che il pubblico fosse trasportato, ecco, e potesse sognare un po' anche lui di entrare in un po' in un altro mondo. Io sono intervenuta su questi elementi naturali, facendo fiorire un po' anche quello che è il grigiume di queste zone un po' dimenticate da tanto.
In questo caso il nostro omino vive questa avventura in loop, dove continua a rivivere la sua disavventura per poi ritrovarsi sempre al punto di inizio e così via.
L'omino ha una valigia in mano, quindi è il solito lavoratore milanese che vive ogni giorno la sua routine.
Vedendo quest'opera penso che le persone possano, spero, anche appassionarsi all'artista che ha fatto quest'opera, perché fa dei lavori veramente fighi.
Si tratta di un tipo di super realtà, una realtà aumentata sovrapposta dalla realtà virtuale.
All right, yeah, and I thought it was good to kind of show you that there is augmented reality is becoming a more accepted kind of form of art and being adopted in the, in the traditional art worlds, although by nature is somewhat disruptive. Oh, I wanted to show you this actually. I thought that was just cool. The book that they published with it is all augmented reality. I've also seen artists actually take their own work, like traditional work, like paintings, and augment them. And I thought that was kind of cool as well, as taking something you've already created and then like adding this extra context on top of it. So I've got a couple questions here. So we're gonna have just a very quick intro to augmented reality. I feel like everyone has a pretty decent grasp on what it is. But how, for example, how is augmented reality different than virtual reality? Augmented reality is also called mixed reality sometimes.
You still see that in the video world.
Yes, gotcha. And I actually think I think augmented reality, this is my own prediction, is I think it's actually going to be less disruptive, or sorry, more disruptive in the short term, because fully immersive virtual environments, I think, are further out than augmented reality experiences. There's some dystopian elements associated with augmented reality. Everything can become an ad surface, right? So there's this kind of hyper commercialization that it enables, and yeah, it can become a filter between you and the real world, and potentially unintentional. And yeah, it could be done to do some pretty dark things. Like, for example, you could download an app to your glasses that makes homeless people disappear, right? So but this is like all technology, this is something that yeah, this is something that is happening and will be becoming more commonplace in our life. So as such, I think it's like a really neat medium. It is still fairly new, and it's only been recently accessible by non-coders. Again, Adobe Aero, far from perfect, but it's definitely one of the better products I've seen out there. They're moving in the right direction. They just need to, make it less buggy.
Yes.
Because the core functionality you can do a lot with. So I think it's a great, given the sort of given the theme for this collaboration, what is it, physical intersections, digital collaboration, I think it hits that theme in a very literal way, especially the part around spaces. There are limitations, as you know. So right now, most people need to experience augmented reality through their phone or through a tablet, you know, which creates like a, you know, interferes with a, you know, a pure experience. There are commercial systems actually out there right now, like non-phone based ones. I've got a couple pictures here to show you guys. That bar's always in the way of where you want to be, isn't it? So there's the HoloLens by Microsoft. This thing's pretty heavy duty. I don't think you're going to see people wearing those around downtown on the bus, but I think they're geared towards commercial and industrial markets. So the idea is that you'd be working on an engine and you would see like technical data overlaid on top of the engine. And I think they've been used in some real world situations like that. What I'm more excited about is the Apple glasses, which are going to be a consumer product, albeit a very expensive one. I think the predictions are going to be about $3,000 US a pair. So not super affordable. Not a lot of people will be able to access your artwork via that, you know, next year, but I do think in probably 3 to 5 years, that technology will become more and more ubiquitous and probably drop down to maybe around $500 or something. The same way some of the VR headsets have. They used to be, you know, 3 to 5K, and now you can pick up a Oculus for $500. So, what else do we have here? Yeah, and historically it required custom coding, you know, so you'd have to like get into also like iOS programming or Android programming and things like that. So, and there's things like Google's AR, you know, core API, Unity as well. People used to build applications with augmented reality, but Aero is it's the first app I've seen that kind of end to end has all of this solved. So they don't, so within the actual browser, they download like a little snippet of code that lets AR run fairly seamlessly. And we'll get into that later, but no coding required, integrates with the Adobe Creative Suite. You know, people using it don't need to download a special app, which is usually the case for AR installations. That is for iOS only. With that said, Android, apparently that's coming soon. So on Android, you do have to download like some kind of like the Adobe Aero viewer or something.
I know in the iOS, I think it still requires you to have, maybe on the newest phones or something, it doesn't. Yeah. So you still need to have Adobe Aero. I didn't install it on my phone yet, and I've got an iPhone 8, so I don't think you need it. Actually, yeah. But I could be wrong because I only started learning about Aero about a week and a half ago, so I'm just slightly ahead of you guys. It's still in beta, as we all know. It's free, which is good. But I found the thing it does the most well. It sounds like some people have trouble just getting it on their computers, period. So that's definitely something to look into. For me, I just find it crashes more than like Photoshop crashes once in a while, but this crashes, you know, once an hour versus, you know, once a month. So the, you know, have you tried turning it on and off again is a good, so when things stop working, it's not a bad idea to save and restart the app. But other than that, yeah, I've actually found it quite powerful, and I think you could do a lot with it if you just accept the limitations that the platform has. A little bit of best practices before we get into the hands-on stuff. So always design for safety and comfort. Don't needlessly cover up large portions of the real world so people are walking out into traffic. it's interesting, right? So like things like, I know I've got a Oculus headset, and they're very careful about, you have to like specifically design your safe area, and the second you get near it, this fake boundary comes up and suddenly it switches so you can see and stuff. You know, these apps don't have any of that kind of stuff, so be careful with that. Onboarding is important too when you're creating an experience, so people don't necessarily know what to do, so you need to be really obvious around interaction, and that's a whole art form in itself. Users can become fatigued using AR for a long time. It's a bit of the same thing with virtual reality right now, so try to keep the experiences on the shorter side. You know, no one's going to want to experience your AR art piece for probably more than a few minutes.
And don't create VR and AR. So again, they're different tools, use them differently. And like we said before, there's actually safety issues with covering up too much of reality with the assets that you're bringing into it. Keep your file sizes small. The platform is smartphones. So they suggest less than 50 megabytes. Frame rates for animations, they said keep them below 20 frames per second for animation. That's not terrible actually. For 2D stuff, use JPEGs, use power of 2 for your dimensions for assets. So that's like, 128, 256, 512, 1028. On phones, that stuff actually makes a difference still. 3D, it doesn't sound like a lot of people are using it, but same for a lot of the same things for 2D, like use JPEGs for textures, not TIFFs or heavier duty formats, less than 130K polygons, which maybe makes sense to you. And there's a file format called GLBs that are used a lot in gaming right now, and virtual reality that are optimized to be quick and small and stuff like that. Have you heard of that format before?
No, not in my.
Yeah, it feels, I think it's more one specific to the gaming industry. So
I mean, I think there's a lot of similarities between a bunch of those. It just seems to be different sizes.
All right, so now we're basically gonna fire up the app and go through it. So please follow along. You can pause me if you're getting too far behind or have questions. If you're on the virtual panel, try to use the little hand raisey thing. Where is it in Zoom actually?
More in that bar.
It's in here somewhere. Oh,
It's under reactions
oh, okay.
on the bottom.
Right, and then it stays up, which is great. So yeah, I just learned that today. Actually, the whole team learned it, and it was emoji hell. It was like everyone was emoticoning everything. So yeah, okay, good. So I'm gonna fire up. If I do that, do you guys that are online see what I'm looking at? Do you see the Adobe Aero environment? I'm talking to the virtual folks.
Yes, we do.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, great.
Check. I wasn't expecting that to work, so that's
Yay.
fun. Okay, so this is the Adobe Aero environment. Some of you have peeked in here, some haven't. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to go through. I'm going to overview the workspace itself. So it's kind of like Adobe Photoshop. You've got toolbars, you've got things that happen over here and that happen over there. And I'm just going to go start at the top and just talk about anything that could be interesting. This is just our home button there. Brings us back to the start. Let's see, I've been playing around with it a lot this week. Going to make a new project. There's two main modes here, edit and preview. So edit's where you build stuff in, and if you click on preview, that's where you actually see stuff and experience stuff. And you'll be switching back and forth a lot as you're building things out. Over here's the scene. So this contains a list of everything that's in the scene, including the floor. And there's different types of surfaces. There's vertical surfaces, and we can actually use an image as an anchor. We're going to get into that later. The left-hand side here, there's a bunch of ways to import files. There's the little plus sign, and then there's the usual file import or Command I as well. Down here. Okay, we're going to save that. So down here, you've got there's a line here. So these top ones are all tools for manipulating the thing in the environment, the models, and the bottom part is for moving the camera around. And if you haven't worked in a 3D space, that might be a bit of a new concept. But just imagine there's a virtual camera in the space that can move around, right? So for example, this glass that I've got here, I can move it directly, but I could also move the camera perspective. So just good to know those two things are different. Then we've got all of our starter assets here, which are great. There's actually a bunch of stuff you can play with, and we're going to play with some stuff today. Some of it's pretty generic, so it could potentially be incorporated into stuff. I've got the space exploration pack open I'm playing with. We go down here. Content. Yeah, so that's this little running man here is the behavior builder, and we're going to get into that later. I usually leave it open because you're usually doing something to do with behaviors. On the right-hand side here, we've got our actions, which will go into details. So these are actions to do on objects specifically. And this is an action toolbar. Down here, we can add triggers and actions that the models do, but these are like kind of general actions that we might want to do on something. So you can delete something, duplicate, you can group things. You can snap to align the selection to the surface plane, which is actually really useful for getting things like, it's actually quite tricky. It's a bit fiddly in 3D, like getting things like in 3 dimensions, like we're gonna do a little exercise later where we try to put a cup on a table, and you'll see it's
floats a little bit, or
yeah.
a little bit.
So that's a great tool just to snap it. Unfortunately, it doesn't snap to the nearest object. That would be cool, or the nearest plane. It'll snap to whichever. So if you have a horizontal surface, it'll snap to that. If you're using a vertical surface, so you might do that for like graffiti. The cool thing is then if you hit that snap button, it'll snap to that plane. So if you want an image to snap right to that plane, it'll do that. And what else do we have in here? Automatic rescale. Actually, I haven't played with that one. Revert to original size can be good if you pull in a model. It kind of fits them into the scene. And there's an example, there's an astronaut model in here that's 6 feet tall, that you might not want them to be 6 feet tall. It imports them into the scene a bit smaller. And replace selected asset. Yeah, so that's a good one. If you want to just swap something out in the exact same position, that's useful. In one of the tutorials, they have like a display panel and they decide they want it to have a blue outline instead of a green one. So you're able to like go in and actually swap out something that will go in the exact same spot instead of having to like navigate and push it into that spot. And that's pretty much covers it. Down here, there's is where a lot of the action happens, and that's where we're going to add triggers and actions, and we're going to go into each section of this in detail. So I just want to do a very brief overview. So how I got here is I was in the home environment, and then once you're here, there's 2 ways to open something. Oh, there's a few ways actually, but you can open an existing file or you can create a new file. So I just hit new file and gave it a name, and that'll bring you into the kind of development environment. Cool.
Can you start a new file in mobile?
So in the mobile one, you don't get this environment. You're immediately brought to your camera real world environment. And it kind of, you have to find a surface and then put your objects within there. So you just, this one, because you don't have the real world, it's a fake.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so on the mobile app, you don't get this,
You don't
the
get
grid.
this. You immediately get your real world, and you just pick your objects and
Oh,
stick it
interesting.
in there.
Yeah. Okay.
But a lot of the trigger stuff and the library is similar.
Okay, that makes sense. It functions. You don't get that menu and everything on the web.
But you can see probably if you use the phone app that the desktop apps is more powerful, easier to build things. And so again, if you can get that working on your computer, or at least a few people in the group that you're going to work on, I'd recommend that. Yeah.
Is that
yeah, probably. Thanks for noticing. All right. Any questions before we move on? Nope. Okay.
Comparability. This is like neither of my devices are comparable, so probably old devices can use it.
You'd have to look, yeah.
I don't know what the cutoff is.
I don't either. I've got an iPhone 8, although I haven't tried putting the app on my phone. I've just used the export files. So
very interesting, because it says requires iOS 13.1.
yeah, okay, then that's going to be a hard requirement. Yeah,
and this one has an error message on computer desktop.
Yeah, the computer one is interesting because mine it's compatible by all means. Download it and install it, and then just can't run it. It just doesn't even get past the open. So,
no, that's unfortunate.
It started to, but then it stopped. It's on my phone. Yeah. I think it's my mistakes.
Okay, should we carry on?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now I wanted to go through 3D space and navigation. So we talked a little bit about object space versus camera space. I'll throw something in the scene here. What do I want? I don't know. I like the astronaut a lot. Okay, so again, so when you select the selection tool, it actually gives you options to. So for example, you can see here I can actually move X, Y, or Z. There's some rotate buttons and there's some scale buttons. So there's sort of two ways to do most things. So that's one of the ways, and you can see here, you know, I can move them along this axis. I can move them along that axis. Here, I'll show you that snap button in action. When you select when you select the actual move icon, so even though I can move him there, you get more options basically. This one's really cool. So this lets me move along the X and Z plane, and it kind of gives you an idea of what it'll do. So say I wanted to move the guy down to this area, that'll actually let me pull him along that axis. And yeah, you probably know that's a super useful thing to be able to do, to move something along 2 planes instead of 1. For rotation, it's just a little more clear, I found, which way you're rotating, and scale as well. So I tend to do, I can just scale by hand. I tend to do scaling actually in the object properties. So, and that's something we didn't talk about when we looked at the interface. So just let me find another place for this. So when I've got this astronaut selected, you can see down here, there's properties for that astronaut. So for example, the size, we can see he's 10 centimeters, or he's actually 20 centimeters tall right now. I'll show you that revert to actual size. So he's actually a 6 foot tall model. But for the purposes of this, we're gonna keep him little. Any luck? Oh yeah, yeah, he is. I know. I put him in my living room and took a picture with my wife beside him. I just did a snapshot and freaked her out. It was fun. Yeah. Yeah, so again, that top panel is all about manipulating the actual model. If you click off of it, you'll see it. So I know it's a little bit hard to tell when it's covered with all the arrows, but as soon as you click off of it, they disappear. And then we've got below that, this is our camera space. So this way, so you'll notice he's going to stay about, what's that, 40 centimeters away from that thing. So he's still maintaining the same position on the grid, but this is letting me what's the official word for that? Orbit. Orbit, and then we've got we can move the camera, dolly probably, and then this one is for zooming in and out, which is this third one here. They're mapped to buttons 1, 2, and 3, which I actually find really useful, because often when you're trying to get something set up nicely, I find you need to switch back and forth between them a lot. So actually,
they're mapped to the mouse, I found.
Yeah, some, like for example, you can zoom in and out with the mouse. It's a lot slower though than actually like this zoom in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's quite cool. And actually, I found a lot just using this, for a few hours. I'm keeping my 3 fingers on 1, 2, and 3 when I'm navigating a scene, and then my thumb is near the V button, which is the selection tool, just for workflow stuff. And then yeah, it's nice to be able to switch back and forth between those things really quickly, and it starts to become intuitive fairly fast. Now, it's easy to get lost in 3D space. Sometimes you just get really messed up and you don't know where things have gone, and you're upside down and you're disoriented. And luckily, there's a couple of good ways to deal with that. So still in the way. If you go to camera, there's the reset camera or Apple B or Command B, and that'll reset the camera to its initial position. That's really helpful. And if you press F, oh, what's that? I might need to have them selected. If you press F, it'll frame the object. And if you press Shift F, if you have 2 objects, it will frame them both in the shot. And again, these are just nice workflow kind of things to get used to.
F or Shift?
Yeah, so F will frame the whatever's selected.
Okay.
But if you wanna frame everything in the scene, Shift F will do that, and that's I found that really handy. So how many people, so you're playing in the environment on your laptop? No? I'm just wondering if it's, yeah. Okay. Okay.
I'm in the environment.
You in the environment? I think since a lot of people aren't today, we better, yeah, I had like an exercise to do, putting a cup on a table. But I think I'll just go through it very quickly to kind of show you what that could look like. So let's get rid of our astronaut here. Everything like you just click and delete to get rid of. Let's go to our what was that? Interior design. All right, let's throw a table in there and let's throw a cup in there. So first of all, you're like, wow, that cup's really big, right? So so you might go into the cup properties. So make sure it's selected and be like, okay, what's the size there? It's 17 centimeters long. Or what's the scale? Sorry, it's 0.7. Let's make that like, I don't know, 0.2. That looks better. Why don't we zoom in? Oh. Rotate around. Zoom in. Yeah, it's still pretty big. Maybe we'll make it 0.1. Okay, that looks good. That looks cup size. Now, say I want to put the cup on top of the table. There's a couple ways to do it. You can kind of getting a little closer here. You kind of eyeball it by selecting it, being like, okay, let's move it up. That's about right. But then if I rotate around, you might see, oh, actually it's floating above the table. So so when you're moving things this way, you really need to kind of do multiple, like check in the perspective multiple times to get it right. So let's just move you down a little bit. There we go. That's looking better. Looks like it's on the table, scaled properly. Cool. So like I said, it can detect like the floor itself. Again, using this where the magic button here, but it'll just do it with that surface. Like I said, I wish there was a tool that snapped it to the closest surface, maybe in a future version.
Can you change like size in relationship to other objects in your virtual space? Like, does it have a way of
like
you want it to do?
You can link objects, so you can create groups. So yeah, so if I wanted to scale those both evenly, I create a group and then scale that group.
But it won't let you do so 30%.
I don't think so, but yeah, I'm by no means an expert with this. Another way to do it is to do it a bit more like I'm guessing you might do it in architecture. Is you'd look at the table here, this dining table, and you'd go down to the size, and you'd see on the y-axis it's what 7.68 centimeters up. So then I go to my glass, and on its position, I'd go to 7.6 and pop it up there. So you can always look at the properties of objects to help align things. And it's actually probably a bit quicker to do it that way if you get used to it. Because like I said, things look lined up in one perspective, and then you rotate a bit and something's not lined up.
And this is a lot harder
on the app.
Mobile thing, just because moving objects on the touch screen.
I bet.
And you can enter some information, but it's, again, you're still kind of.
I'm a
tablet for sure.
It sounds like a bit of a nightmare, yeah,
but
to do it on the phone.
Moving objects with the finger is kind of fun. I mean, but they
See you, Dixon.
Do all kinds of funky stuff.
Yeah.
Getting it precise.
Yeah, again, I feel desktop's going to be a lot better for authoring and the phone for tweaking in the field. But that's something the group will have to discuss after, can we get it running on a few people's laptops? Yeah. I did perceive that as a problem, because for me everything was super smooth there, other than, like I said, it crashes more.
Screen's dead too there.
Oh, was it this? I think it's my
yeah. I will say a way to get around it on the phone that I found is if instead of building an entire scene in one model or something, you have each of your assets that you want, and then just drop them in your live space. It's much easier because you see the reference of your room around you. So I want this here.
Interesting.
Put it there. Which like that makes a lot of sense. But you got to, as long as you don't have 400 things, it's not too bad. So you put one here, one there, 5 objects. That's not too bad. And you can just do that in the actual space you want it.
Yeah, and again, yeah, you can take limitations and constraints as ways to channel your creativity as well. So if the phone has limitations, but that's your only way of authoring something, then you need to be strategic and be creative around how and what you author, knowing those limitations. So cool. So that's sort of how so that's 3D space and camera space and kind of how to move things around. Now we're going to talk about something pretty cool called surface anchors. So here, for example, so here, if you look up here, we see this, it says horizontal surface. I think I'll delete that. Just let's kill these guys. We touched on that briefly. So there's vertical surfaces and there's image surfaces. So in general, I feel like the idea is for horizontal surfaces, it's floors, vertical surfaces is walls. Image is really neat. Image lets you take pretty much any image that is, has some contrast in it and has some sharp edges in it, and anchor your augmented reality on that. For example, I printed these out because I'm gonna use that image as an anchor. I think in terms of the horizontal surface, horizontal surface and vertical surface, I don't know if we need to talk much more. Again, just remember that the snap to surface actually adjusts to those. Use horizontal for floors, use vertical for walls. So image, I'm just going to show you quickly here. Let's grab, no, not you. So I'm going to grab this, basically this image, but this could be anything. Like this could be a tattoo of yours, for example, right? Or it could be a piece of graffiti or a painting. Again, that's how you can augment those types of objects.
It should also exist that has to exist in the real world.
Yes, yeah. So the anchor is something in the real world that the camera is going to look for and anchor the 3D object on that. So yeah, and that's quite powerful because you can have the object move. So we're gonna use this as an anchor, and you're gonna see that when we actually move this around, the object actually follows it. So I think you could do some pretty interesting things using anchors. So we're gonna just use this simple example with this image here. Oh, I got lost, so I'm gonna Control V to get unlost. And let's grab our friendly astronaut. Let's grab him. So when you're using an image anchor, the grid space that doesn't really exist anymore. So it's useful for compositing the scene, but it doesn't actually have any relation to the real world anymore. Everything's relative to that anchor that it's going to find in a scene. So here's our astronaut standing on that little thing. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to export things. So we just go to share here, and the project's, what's it called, bar one, sure. This image here, so this is when people download this, or they scan a QR code or click on a link on their phone or whatever, they're going to see this image. So that's a great place to put kind of your thumbnail or storyboard for whatever your experience is. And so you can change that image. It'll just use an image that's from the scene, but it's better to actually have you could have the title of your work and the artist name and stuff like that in there. So I'm not going to do that now. We can see the project size is about 6 megabytes. That's great. That's less than 50. And what this is doing is it's actually going to upload this asset to the cloud. And anybody who has the link or QR code is going to be able to actually experience that astronaut anchored to this image. It could be anywhere in the world. I found it takes a little bit of time for it to happen. And then once we've got that, actually, why don't folks with your phones, let's go up and take a picture of that here. Put that QR code in your, one thing that's nice too is QR codes were kind of dead. Nobody liked them. And then the pandemic hit. And so suddenly almost everybody knows how to use a QR code. And once you've done that, you're going to get this Adobe Aero screen. Again, I don't have this on my phone. and click open. And then it's going to load the scene. Takes a second. So I'll hit continue. And then you can actually see it already showing up on the TV where that image is through my phone. But if you have a look at one of these guys, he should pop up there. And what's really cool, you'll notice if you rotate that paper or pick it up, he's actually going to follow it around. I can come over and show you. You look very comfortable. So you can see here, hey, I've got him on this piece of paper. I can move him around. Oh, he got lost for a second. Cool, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Upside down. Oh, it doesn't work upside down.
It has to see the image. So if it, so that's a limitation to anchor-based stuff is as soon as the camera loses sight of the image, it's gone because it doesn't know what to anchor to.
You can still keep the astronaut.
Yeah, the astronaut just end up floating in space. Oh.
If there's two of the same image, you can jump between the two. Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to do. Yeah. And then I just click open. Oh, and it wants you to download it. You might have an older
Can you
phone.
do it with your phone?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
that
do?
was good.
Okay, good. Yeah, now if you look at that, it's transformed.
The other image becomes this.
Let's go over here.
Whichever one's bigger.
Oh, okay.
Is there an astronaut there?
No, we'll figure it out upside down too. Pretty good.
Oh, interesting. Is that in your case, it wants you to actually select a surface.
So does it actually ask?
Oh, you're actually, so the problem there is you're actually in the app.
Oh.
So let's go back to the camera. Hopefully that'll work.
So you want to?
So let's grab that again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, if you move around or pick up the paper.
I wonder if you get if you put the URL in.
I mean, that's pretty.
Oh.
I can't seem to want to download it.
Yeah, it is superimposed on it.
I'm gonna send you this link and let me know.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, I don't think mine.
I'm having no luck with the computer, but kind of, it's very, it's kind of.
Right, what's the
Okay,
version
so
of your
yeah, so
iPhone?
let's,
Do you know?
5SC.
Oh.
so I'm noticing on like, so for example, her phone,
Is it, actually, it says,
yeah,
I have to download this app to be able to see
you
it.
might if you've got an older phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says a can view over there.
Is your older phone?
So, yeah, this says it,
Yeah.
it's.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but it won't let you.
Version,
Yeah.
no, it's like,
But yeah.
like a later version.
Oh,
Here.
Oh,
What it says is can
But yeah.
view,
yeah.
Also, like.
Oh,
and
copy that.
copy that,
Oh,
and then I have
Yeah,
to
I
open
think
something.
Put it in yeah, just like a Safari window and let's see what happens.
I think the one you use 500 megabytes.
It doesn't give
Yeah.
me paste option though.
Still with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Let's go back and try to recopy it.
I mean, it looks good.
It works good.
Yeah, you
Also
sit
up
there
here.
and I'll ask you, I guess, later.
I imagine
Copy.
that I want
Okay.
it.
But
I
then,
always imagine like the third eye thing.
try
So I imagine like I want it so
just
you're
like
looking
put it
almost
here,
up.
Yeah.
it doesn't really give me.
You can be wherever you want.
Try using your
like,
system cut and paste.
I just don't understand.
So go back and so let's
Well, use the whole
let's see if we do like select all.
See if
And
I can-
then copy
And
like.
oh no, not that copy button.
I
My
see.
concern is that copy button is not working.
Their stuff is really underground.
Select all and then this copy menu and try that again. If that doesn't work, then I don't know why it doesn't want that
Right.
paste in your browser.
I'll scoop around, so.
Well, I'm relieved it works. So we don't have to go from Marina
Here, oops.
Yeah, once I
see.
like gave me those files.
There you try
Okay.
paste.
Have your.
Yeah, try.
Oh.
And it's going back to the same place, yeah.
Interesting,
To lose it and then I'm gone.
interesting, so paste and go.
Yep.
Oh, it's just one page, that's funny, just
Okay.
circling around.
It is.
So I, yeah, built 3D.
And you can't,
So I
you
can
can't
press it.
open them.
Oh, it's like, it's gonna go to the app
Yeah.
and then there's like requires iOS.
Yeah, so that's, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's,
so
okay, got
do you
it.
know if your phone can be updated to that?
I don't think so. I don't think
Yeah.
so, no.
You kidding?
No way. It's like definitely old technology. No.
All right, who got it to work?
Oh, yeah.
Who got 1, 2? Anyone else? 3, 4, okay, good. And we still don't know what's going on with yours?
You can find it now. So cool.
Okay.
It's gonna be
Actually, yeah,
on the tablets to make
Uh,
this more.
Well, I'm glad that,
Yeah.
There you go. Hey, so what did you do?
Turn my phone
You turned your phone on.
and turn it back on.
Oh, okay.
Hard reset.
All right. Have you tried turning it on and off again? Worked. All right. If it doesn't work the first time, try turning your phone on and off. That worked for one person. So it worked for at least half the group. So I'm happy with that. Again, yeah, no, I had no idea how compatible or not compatible it'll be with, people's phones and computers. So, but I'm glad, yeah, at least half the people are able to experience it. And yeah, so that's we're gonna dig a little bit more into that at the very end. But that's one of my favorite things about this is how easy it is to publish augmented reality content and share it with people. And that I'm assuming will just get better and better. And in theory, if you've got an iPhone that's newer than what's it, 13 point something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. So it's basically Apple is not gonna make it easier for old technology. Of course.
They want you to update your phone. Yes. Okay. There we go. So that gets us through surface anchors. So again, we've got the horizontal, floors, vertical, walls, and image anchors, which again is very powerful. That image doesn't need to be this simple, like it can be much more complex than that. But I would always test, right? Test what images work and what images don't work. The only guidance I have is they said high contrast and some sharp edges. So
Can you build an image anchor in the phone app, or you have to do it?
no, the phone app looks for an image file. So for example, if you wanted to use your tattoo as a image anchor, you'd take a picture of your tattoo.
Okay.
And then you'd put it on your computer, browse to it. When you select image, it actually opens up a window to open up a image file. So that's sort of how the workflow would work. You totally should. I think I actually looked. I was going to show some, but there's so much stuff to cover. I decided not to get into it, but yeah, there's tons of videos of people doing augmented reality tattoos, and it's super dope. It's yeah. Okay, we're gonna soldier on. There's still a fair bit of stuff to get through, and it just kind of gets more exciting. Oh yeah, we'll go through this briefly. I'm gonna rip through the next part because I'm not sure if you guys are going to be using 3D. But we're going to talk about how you get stuff into, and that was actually a perfect segue because we're talking about how you get stuff into, how you import your files into this environment. And I wanted to talk about a few different kinds. So, so one gotcha I found that is that there was a file that didn't come in a folder. It was just like when I unzipped it, it was just by itself. And it wouldn't let me actually browse to it and open it. I had to create a folder and put it inside the folder. So just if you're having trouble importing an asset, make sure it's in a folder. And yeah, it was just, again, this, I think it's because it's beta software, just there's going to be little nuisances like that.
Certainly for the 3D objects. Yeah. Part of it is because it's looking for a bundle, like a zip file with the textures and other things. So yeah, it recognizes like zip folders as an object. Yes. Yeah. With the single things, I think I've had a couple of like it's a bit goofy. You've seen, yeah. So again, make sure you're even if it's a single file, it should still be in a folder. Usually these projects have multiple files, so I actually didn't discover it for quite a while.
Is that going to be the same case with the phone as well?
I'm not sure actually.
Yes.
What,
kind of, because when you're in pictures seem to be fine. You could just like camera roll and stick it in.
Hello. Was that a
different file types like?
Oh, I've got some chat questions here.
ones that wants it in that folder with.
Yeah, so that matter is not competing with Justin. Justin, are you folks?
Doesn't the desktop count as a folder? Like,
It can. So if you have a.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
If you have a folder with like if you have a folder with like all your stuff in, it'll import like everything, I think, kind of like if it's meant to be, but it'll ignore certain things. So if you have a 3D file, it'll ignore all of the texture stuff. It'll bring in the main thing and go, here you go. And then so either I don't know if it's 100% consistent.
Okay. Let's move on. But yeah. Oh, sorry.
I was kind of curious when you had trouble importing a single file.
Yeah.
Where was that single file? If not,
It was just in my downloads.
Yeah, but
I know downloads is technically a folder. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it needs to be, even if it's in what's technically a folder like downloads or desktop or documents, it still seems to need to be in its own folder for whatever reason. Again, I don't know if that's intentional or if that's a bug. It sounds like there can be good reasons for them expecting things to be in folders, but it might just be, again, because it's beta software and it's one of the things on their list of to-dos that they haven't done yet. I'm just going to check in actually really quickly with the remote folks. It's easy to forget about you guys, especially because I'm on the other screen. I saw, I think chat's maybe a good place to ask questions. Oh, I've got to share my screen again.
Yeah, I think since the display connected.
Oh yeah, so my adapter got bumped and the display disconnected, and it sounds like we're not sharing my screen. So I'll do that again. And is there anything else before we move on to the next section? Speak now or forever. What's the term? Hold your peace. What's that mean? Hold your peace, I guess. Peace of mind. Okay. And it sounds like before this piece of pie. Yes. Yeah, it's dinner time now, isn't it? Oh, I got another chat message. Sorry, I'm just gonna have a peek. Got it loaded, but finally just watching for now. Okay, that's Heidi. Yeah, I've shared my screen again. So you should all see it again. Thanks. Do we do that? Okay, good. All right, and let's move you guys over here. Always in the way, the toolbar, wherever you want to be. Okay, what are we doing next? So importing files. I already talked about, oh yeah. Okay, so images are straightforward. Again, with that gotcha that they seem to need to be in a folder. Something that's really cool is actually if you import a PSD file, it actually separates the layers automatically. I'll show you that really quickly because I think they have good question. Probably, but yeah, I'm not sure though. Yeah.
It does the same thing with I guess After Effects. You can.
Oh, so in the interface, I didn't mention this earlier. So you can see that it filters the assets by the little cube or like 3D models, and then we've got images, models versus images. So if we go to images, so these are literally PSD files. So let's grab this one. It's kind of cool. Let's throw it maybe on a horizontal surface because it's sort of already that way. I'm going to reset my camera again. Let's zoom in a little bit here. So there's that graphic on the wall. And if I choose where's that vertical surface? Again, move you guys out of the way. So if I choose symbols here, if you can see this last thing here is layer spacing. And so for example, I'm going to be lazy and not think about where I want the spacing. So I'm gonna guess it's the y-axis. It's not. Let's try the z-axis. Actually, I should be able to look here. So see in this corner, there's a little reference here. So it looks like Z should pull it out this way, which is the effect that I want. So I'm going down to layer spacing, bottom corner here for Z. I'm going to make them 5 centimeters apart. And there you can see it's actually like kind of, whoa. I don't know how to do that. It's actually kind of made them, let's do that again. So Z, we went to, I think we made it a lot more than that. Zoom back in here. So yeah, you can see it's actually kind of created a like put them into 3D. So this is another way that if you're more comfortable with 2D objects, if you layer them, you can actually add depth to a 3D scene, which is quite cool. The same thing if you say you had a graffiti mural, you could make your image actually pop out of the image, you know, or have part of the image. You know, you could mirror it but pull it out and things like that with in virtual reality. Okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Say like a graffiti image. So you would be able to take it complete, you would take a photo of that, put it in there, and it would be able to separate the layers.
If you did it in, if you took it into Photoshop, cut the parts out and put each of those.
Okay, so you do have to enter into here an image you already.
It has to be, it has to be a PSD file that has layers, but it knows about the layers automatically when you import them, and you can actually create depth between them, which I think could be used to.
So that's another thing that needs to be learned. How to make layers,
in Photoshop.
That's easy to do. So.
Oh, is it?
Awesome, and you're local too. So Flex, they give really good support for Photoshop and Final Cut Pro and like all the basic Adobe stuff. So
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, and that's another place too if you're local, Flex, and I think most of you probably are because you're here. Flex Media Gallery. You came out for this? That's amazing. Are you serious? That's so fun. Okay. You guys should get me to come to Vancouver. It'll be easier. Although I guess then half of you have to go. Oh, you're up island.
Yeah.
Which part?
I'm in Cowichan.
Yeah.
Here.
Nanaimo. Cool. Had some friends. Dude, Russ Macaulay and oh, you just moved there. Oh, okay.
I think he's back. Sorry.
He is now. Yeah. I'm hanging out with him again. He's an old art school buddy. And he's still with Marlena too. They started actually a design company. They're doing their own thing now, which is awesome. Nice to see people with arts degrees being like having proper jobs and using it, getting paid, and still doing it. So that's great. Okay, so we're talking about importing things now. So I'm going to go very quickly over 3D stuff just so you've seen it, and in case you want to get into 3D. But we won't get too deep into it. Just delete you. Let's grab a 3D object. So I'm going back to this 3D menu. Let's pick something that has an animation. Let's say this armadillo, because I like armadillos. And frame him. Let's rotate so we can see him. Hello, armadillo. So we're going to get a little bit into behaviors here, but we're not going to go too deep because we've got a whole section on that. But just to show you so this is a GLB file, so it also has animations contained in that file, and you can't really see them here, but as soon as you want to access them, so there's 4 kinds of triggers. Again, we'll go into them later, so not too deep now, but there's a start trigger, which basically means as soon as the experience starts, do something. There's a tap one, which means, and again, we'll use our mouse here, but in the real world, it'll be people tapping on their phone. I don't know how they're going to do that with AR glasses. They might have a pinch or something that the glass can pick up.
I would imagine so.
There's going to be some
weird,
right? Yeah, because I was kind of thinking that today, like you don't click on with your mouse, you're clicking on the screen, but what happens when there's, how do you actually identify that? Anyway, that's
you
wink, a nod, or it could be a hand. They might be able to track your hand and get an idea of what it's pointing at. Anyway, so we're gonna create one of these 4. There's only 4 triggers, but actually you can do a lot of cool things with them. There's a ton of actions which we'll get into, but let's just have this trigger when the clip starts. And we're going to assign an action to this, and this is where we're going to see the animation. So the top 2, there's play animation and play images. Play animation are for like 3D model files. Play images is actually something that's more accessible for traditional artists, and that's basically a folder of images. So for example, a folder of PNGs, and a lot of like with Photoshop, After Effects a bit heavy, not as many people use it, but something like Photoshop, if you Google how to make a PNG animation in Photoshop, they actually let you put assets on a timeline, and you can create, you can export those animations and then import them into here. This is awesome. Yeah, it's quite powerful. And again, if you know Photoshop, then making, and there's a gazillion tutorials on making like simple animations in Photoshop, and then they'll seamlessly import in here, which is beautiful. This is a 3D one, so that's the difference between play animation versus play images. So we go there, and then over here on the right hand side, we've got our subject. That's the armadillo model. And then there's a couple ways this happens. So sometimes an animation set has multiple animations in it. Sometimes an animation set actually has a bunch of clips associated with it. So this only has one, but this could be 5 different ones. This is armadillo rolling, but it might have armadillo sleeping, you know, whatever those animations were named. So so you need to select an animation. So we've created a trigger which says when the scene starts, do what's below, and then the action, as we said, play the armadillo action. And if we let's just look at some of the properties there. So clip length, so you can make the clip shorter or longer depending on what you want. Transitions used if the animation, if you don't know it's going to start and end in the same place. Like something like a button animation that always starts and ends in the same place, you would turn that off. But for things that don't start and stop in the same place, and this would apply for 2D animations too. Treadmill, I don't understand yet. We're going to leave it. Return to start position just means that when the animation ends, it will always go back to the same spot. And infinites one you'll use a lot. So for example, if you had an animation of something flapping its wings that was 5 seconds long, but you wanted it to keep flapping its wings, if you hit infinite, it will keep doing it. I'm not going to put infinite because we only want to see this armadillo roll over once.
Treadmill should keep the object in the same anchored place. Just do the action, but not move.
Let's try that. We can. I like it. Yeah, it's good to have an actual like three. Yeah.
See, does it move? Or
Yeah.
Treadmill,
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can preview things right in here, which is cool. So with this little play head up here, so we can play the animation. So cute. Oh, he just went off. He rolled too far away for us to see, but he was actually there. I'm going to just zoom out a little bit here. There we go. Oh, that's funny. Okay, there we go. So now you probably see him do the full roll. There we go. Cool. Let's do treadmill. You wanted to see if you'll stay on the spot. That would be great, because that would actually be quite useful. Yeah. Thank you, Evan. Wicked. And that again could be quite useful in an animation. So that's sort of how you import through. If you're importing 3D files and they've got animations contained, then that's how you're going to do it. If you're going to create 2D animations, it'll be.
Can you do one more thing? Can you put that infinite thing just to?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Experience it, doing it over and over and over.
Just because it's going to be extra cute. All right, I will humor you. So you see, there he goes. And oh, he didn't want to go again. Oh, you know why? Because it's different. It's actually different in that's not the full thing. I found the infinite thing doesn't work in there, because the preview is just meant for you to see, make sure you're selecting the right animation, that it's working in the scene. Preview will actually do all of the behaviors properly. So that's another one of those little gotchas. So yeah, so if example, yeah, see an animation stop in preview, that's fine. That's what it's supposed to do. Flip over to, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got it. And did I want to talk about easing yet? I don't think so. I think we're doing that later. Yeah, okay, so that's 3D. So that's oh hello, 3D objects and move you over. Again, it sounds like some of you guys might be more likely to do that action called play images. And we're going to go through most of these actions in a little bit. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about so in augmented reality, people tend not to use GIFs. They tend to use animated PNG sequences or APNGs. Does anyone want to hazard a guess as to why? File size is one, yes.
Yeah, and it does work.
Yeah. Quality is another. So JPEGs have you're going to get jaggy edges sometimes. And the most important one is actually transparency. Because PNGs support transparent layers. And if you import a GIF and the background's white, it's going to be a square, right? So that's much less immersive than if it's just the outline of the actual thing. It's going to blend into it's going to mix into reality much more smoothly than something that has a background. So transparency, I think, is probably the most important reason why you want to use PNGs, unless of course you're displaying something on a virtual TV or something and you want it to have a background. But in general, yeah, you see and that's why 3D stuff's used a lot, because it has that for free, and things like shadows as well. I'm actually curious, I didn't explore that yet, but I'm curious if 2D assets create shadows in this environment.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you gotta put an image or something.
Yeah.
And it's as long as it's detected the surface.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a faux darker area behind it.
Yeah.
And it kind of helps you land things where you want, but
yeah,
they're not like real shadow. I mean, same with the 3D stuff, but it's not actually shadows based on the lighting. That's just
there is they fake it, and there's it's called, I forget the name, there's an acronym, it was in one of the videos, but there's a type of rendering that's preferred, that makes objects look more real, look like they might be lit naturally, even if they're faking it. But cool. Okay, I think that covers, and duplicating and grouping we talked about before, so we can skip that. So now we're going to go into the behavior builder. So this is where things start to get actually really fun. And actually that was a perfect transition to it, because we're already doing behaviors. So we saw there's 4 different triggers, right? And you can create multiple triggers. So for example, let's create a tap trigger. I'm going to get rid of that one. So you can see here, I've created a tap trigger, but you can see here I've got this kind of angry mark, and it just means I haven't selected a model yet. So I'm actually going to go there and select the armadillo. So this lets people, again, tap on an object that they see through their phone. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have, instead of the armadillo just doing his thing, we're going to make it interactive. So we're actually going to make someone have to tap on him to make him do his thing. And all we do there is we just bring that under the tap trigger. Oh, and play animation, it's upset again too. The reason why is it doesn't know. It needs more information. So now it knows it's the armadillo, and it's the armadillo rolling. And that's it. We've got our trigger. We've got our action. I go into preview. He's not doing anything. I click on him and he does this thing. So boom, instant activity. That's how you're going to get people to touch objects in your scenes.
So basically, you make them animate yourself, or infinite, you could move around and they're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Or you could choose that someone has to activate things.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
way more like interactive.
Yeah. So there's 4 triggers. We've done 2 now. We did the just when this starts, trigger this effect or behavior or action. We've got tap now, and there's 2 more that we're going to go over, and they're about the proximity of the person to the object, which is quite powerful. So let's go back into our edit mode. So proximity, how that works. So let's go proximity, enter. So when you're doing, again, we got to select the armadillo. So distance is 10 centimeters. Let's make that a bit bigger, maybe 50 centimeters. So what this means is when I get within 50 centimeters of the armadillo, it's going to trigger an action. Again, let's just because we're already doing it, let's play his set of animations. So here's our armadillo. And let's zoom out a little bit in the scene here, just so that we can make sure we see that get triggered. Let's go, oops. Let's go back to where we were. I'm still getting used to navigating in this space too. So now we're at least 50 away, so that's probably good. So let's go to preview. So he's just sitting there, and then let's get close. If I get closer to him, oh, let's go this way.
What is the maximum world size or distance?
It probably depends. Yeah, actually, I'm not sure. That's a really good question. Yeah. I'm going to come back to you with that answer. Yeah, I bet that's a Google query away, though. I bet we can find that out. So I'm approaching this this armadillo. Oh, I get close, and he starts moving. Awesome. And then inversely, you can do the same thing when you move away from something. In the tutorials, they use proximity a lot to draw people's attention to do something. So for example, you may need to tap on something in the scene, but what'll happen is as you hit this proximity trigger, suddenly that object will get highlighted, you know, so you can hit it.
Sorry, this is
Yeah.
like, so this means like proximity means like when the augmented thing comes up, like someone goes to a certain.
Exactly. So when it's
specifically their device.
it's yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
It would be like quite close your phone is to the.
Yeah, but the idea is.
Yeah, that the portal you have to.
The idea is you have to walk towards it to trigger something.
Yeah.
And same thing when you leave as well. And just with those 4 triggers, you can do a lot if you mix and match them. You can trigger the same, you can use the same trigger multiple times. So you can have a tap trigger do 2 different things. Are we talking about order of operations yet? Yeah, we will. So I'm not gonna demo proximity exit because it's basically the same idea. Just remember the important thing when you're doing a proximity based trigger is this distance here. So when you're triggering things too, oh, how do I get you? Go away. There's something here. So so for example, with say tap or proximity enter or any of these triggers, you know, how soon can I retrigger it? The most common one is let whatever I wanted to happen complete. But you do have the options to immediately do it. So with the hedgehog, if on the tap one, if I tapped him, he'd start moving. If I tapped him again, he'd start that animation over.
Just immediately within the one.
I don't know if you go back to restart it. That's something to try on your own, but that's the idea. Never is another one. So you can have things just trigger once and then never again as well. You know, again, gives lots of options. So now we're going to talk about actions. So this was an action that we did there, but there's a lot more actions that we can play with. So I'm just actually going to check our remote group here, see if any new questions have come up. Yeah. Oh, chat. I think we're good.
Yeah, I just looked at the chat. It's like...
Awesome. Everything's going okay. Wicked. Okay, so let's do our. Where are we for time to? Oh yeah, we're doing awesome. We're doing good. And don't worry about memorizing everything. This is being recorded, and there's an even better. Adobe's done even better versions of talking through all this stuff. They're just split across a half dozen web pages, but yeah, that tutorial series is amazing, and it might be a good thing to do just to, you know, hear it one way and then hear it another way. You know, it's gonna, and make sure you do all the things. Like this is really, yeah, hands-on learning is the only way to get comfortable environments like this.
Just like with Marina at Fluxus, we've done a million things with, but we both were trying morphing software.
Yeah.
And that's all she does. She like literally, I saw her in action. She brought up a tutorial and step by step had the thing open and was like, let's go to the tutorial, pause. And then like, that was the whole way we figured it out.
Yeah.
And I never realized that. I just thought, yeah.
It's amazing these days. And if you have 2 screens, it's beautiful because you just have the tutorial on one screen and the environment on the other. or if with desktop, you know, you have the tutorial on one, and you know, even if you've got one screen. Okay, cool. Let's dig into actions. So it's important to note there is an order of operations with these actions. So how it works is, okay, so to add a new trigger, you just hit the plus trigger button. So we have an enter one, we could have a tap one. To add a new action to the group there, and again, when it starts, there's no actions, so you're going to click action, and you know, we'll do something. Sure, spin. If you want to add actions to the same group, you're going to add them this way. And what happens is, so for example, when this trigger gets hit, this proximity enter, everything in here will start at the same time. It won't go to, so you can have subsequent actions going to the right. So I can create another action. That action won't happen until the longest animation in that sequence ends. And that's the reason sometimes you might have two tap triggers, because you might have a tap trigger that they use an example where there's a sun spins and this bird flaps its wings, and then the trees are supposed to spin. But because the bird flapping its wings is with the sun animation, it has to wait like 30 seconds for the trees to move. But the artist wanted the trees to move sooner. So all they did is created a second tap trigger and just put the trees in that, you know, so that they would, when the sun got tapped, they'd play right away. So there's, yeah, so in the behavior part, that's you're kind of like mapping out, yeah, all the interactions, and there's a specific order, but generally, yeah, all the triggers will have, like, if there's a tap trigger, every tap trigger in there are all gonna fire all the actions. When there's a list of actions, whatever's the longest action has to happen before the next action from that group takes place. So this is the kind of stuff you'll do when you start building up more complex scenes. Okay. Actions overview. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to show a bunch of different actions here. There we go. So let's just let's get rid of everything for now. Let's do an on start trigger. So looking at our action list here, so we've done play animation. You know, that's, again, if you're doing 3D models, those are animations that will get imported with the model file. These might be 3D models that you've just downloaded, and when you use in your scene, they might be ones that are in the starter assets that comes with this, or there might be ones that you've built out yourself. Play images is again for those folders of image animations. You know, so those will be you know, 2D animations. And again, they're literally like a PNG is like a zip file that just has a bunch of image files in it. Usually the software, when you export it, you set a frame rate for those images. And when you do play images, when you select that action, make sure in the properties you set the frame rate to be the same as the frame rate that you set in your animation. So in Photoshop, when you export down, and again, you said you're familiar with that. Yeah, so just make sure that you also update the frame rate in that, or you'll probably get some weird behavior.
Make sure the frame rate in Photoshop of those things Aero.
Yeah, well, so I would make sure it's less than 20 frames a second, and then in Aero also set the frame rate to be whatever they were for the animation to look as good as possible. Yeah. Play audio, that's a fun one. So that's one of the ones that I've had to restart the app for. That's the only one I've consistently found a bit buggy. Let's throw a dinosaur in here. Scene start. So let's create a play audio. Sound. Nice thing here, so the subject's the dinosaur. Nice thing here is under audio clip, the folder here, they have these audio presets, and they've got a bunch of like kind of sounds that are already there. I bet there's not a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Let's make him bark. And if you click the play button, nice. And then if we go into preview, he'll bark. Again, we could, you know, that could be a tap trigger instead with the dinosaur. Play audio. Audio preset. Let's do dog bark too. Ooh, that's a nasty dog. So now in the scene, now in the scene one. So sounds are a great way, I think, to add impact to interactive things. So right now it won't happen until I click on them. And you can import your own sounds. I think it accepts most sound formats. For size, probably used a compressed format like MP3.
Do you think is the sound just short clips like that, or can it play an ongoing?
It can yes. So if we look here, actually under audio presets, they have some ambience, and they might have something like, what makes the most sense? Let's put them by a river. And then what we do is we go down to infinite here. And then when we hit our scene, it'll keep working over and over again. So that's a way to add ambient sounds to a scene. Ambient sounds you might not want to be triggered, unless of course there was like some animation that involved water, but yeah. It's like some. Yeah. Yeah, it'll play through your phone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right.
Could you get the sound? I mean, so I'm just thinking, like, we have this object in the gallery, and we're gonna go to the object and
Yeah.
You could obviously just have speakers and have sound ongoing playing separately.
The tricky bit is if your phone's driving the experience, then it would have to come from your phone. So you'd actually need to connect by Bluetooth to the speakers or something.
It's ambient sound, yeah, you can just place it.
You just play it on a CD.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
If it wasn't separated, it's this is happening.
Yeah.
Thing, and all of a sudden it activates and it's playing. Can it play not off your phone, but off of a speaker in the gallery?
Only if your phone's connected to it.
Or if your phone's right.
Yeah. Or you could have a tablet that's in the gallery that people use that you know will work, for example, because as we saw, older phones don't seem to work. So you could, like, that would be the safe way for a gallery experience right now, I think, would be have a tablet with instructions to say, and then that tablet could be Bluetooth to better speakers to get a more immersive experience, or headphones if you don't want to have that audio overlap with other experiences. Or yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you can create, they've got preset audio, but again, the opportunity here is to create your own cool audio to fit in there, you know. You could create a guitar where when you tap the strings, they play different sounds. You could make virtual instruments, you know. And actually with phones, you could have 5 different people with their phones playing virtual instruments and working together, actually playing songs. So, okay, let's keep going through these different kinds of actions. Where am I? Okay, we did sound good. Gotcha out is a bit buggy, so that's a couple times. And how I knew it wasn't working is when I went to click the little preview button, just no sound came. So when that happened, restarted, loaded up the file again, and then it worked. And that happened to be 2 or 3 times. So that seems to be a more consistent issue.
I feel like that's a consistent issue across the Adobe suite.
Oh, is this sound?
Audio.
Yeah.
Audio
It's because they're like a visual, like they're focused on visual arts and not sound.
We're learning you can import audio into PDFs through Acrobat. And like in the most recent versions of Acrobat, it's like buggy.
It's just buggy and yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna do I'm gonna do a few different ones at once because these ones are a little bit more straightforward. So let's do spin bounce. Yeah, so let's get rid of our dinosaur for now. Oh, hello. And let's bring in, what do you want to do for spin bounce? Let's bring in an abstract shape. Maybe a knot. There we go. Okay, so let's do a tap trigger because it's easy. For the action, let's let's do spin. And if we look here, it's going to spin around the y-axis. Okay, it's going to spin for 2 seconds. Yeah, let's see what that looks like. So again, we can just do it. We can just preview here what that's going to look like. Again, we threw a tap on it, so you'd have to tap it to do that. Let's change that from spin. Let's change that to bounce. Bounce is kind of what you'd expect. So you can see the offset is, I think, how high it's going to go. So it's going to go 10 centimeters up, I think. Gotcha. And so easing, let's talk about briefly here. So there's 4 kinds. Does anybody understand the concept of easings already? Some people, what's called an easing, it's an animation term. So an easing it has to do with the speed and animation that an animation goes through. And so linear is what you'd kind of expect. It just means it goes up and down at the same speed. But we've found in animation, they found that actually sometimes things starting slower and speeding up, or sometimes things starting faster and slowing down actually create more interesting or more kind of aesthetically pleasing things. So for example, let's do ease out. So that means it will start fast and then slow down. Ease out's a useful one if you want an object in your scene to be really responsive. That's a good one because it'll start moving right away, but then the fact that it slows down at the end just creates a slightly more complex movement, right? It just feels better somehow, right? And that linear one is just and again, so you can play with those to identify the right ones. In general, ease out's great for interaction. You wouldn't want to do ease in because it would feel sluggish, you know, the interaction.
Are there gradients or is it?
You don't get to set them. So it's yeah, ease in out starts slow, goes fast and slow.
Right.
Ease in again. No, they don't have parameters for that yet. They probably will in the future. Linear, the best place to use that is if you've got like a looping animation. Linear can be a good one because you don't want the animation to speed up and slow down. You want it to be fairly consistent. Your frame rate, your animation is controlling the speed of it, right? You've already predetermined that. So they generally don't look good with anything but linear. Awesome, we covered those. Oh my, oh yeah, we've got a couple fun ones left. So let's do aim. So aim is really neat. Let's get rid of that. Let's put aim. Let's do, yeah, let's grab our, he's been our hero of the night. So let's grab our is it a hedgehog? Armadillo. Okay, yeah. Sorry, Armadillo, for calling you a hedgehog. So what I'm going to do now is let's make this a start trigger. So when it starts, we want him to aim, and we got me to see the armadillo. So there's a couple things to do. So camera's one. Camera's quite powerful. So if we go into preview here, oh, why are you not aiming at me? Oh yeah, sorry, that was I've got a note there for that. So we want to make that infinite actually, because you could see the duration was only set to 1 second. So he just peaked. So now he's gonna follow me around with his non-beady eyes because I don't think he has eyes. So you can see that adds it creates a kind of agency in something that someone's viewing, right? Because it's following what they're doing. So I think you could do some pretty interesting things with aim. And no, so let's, yeah, and I'm going to show you that too. So let's just frame this a little better. Let's go back to our default. So there's 2 options for this. So this camera, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an anchor. So, but actually instead of, and let's go, so you can, maybe I'll show you both. It's let's add something else into here. Let's add that knot. And let's move that knot. Let's move it over here. And let's say instead of aiming at the camera, for the target, let's say aim at the knot. So now when we go here, oh, did you see him? So that could be a way to line things up easily. Again, you'll have to watch quite quickly, but he's facing that way. And now I wonder if there's speed controls for that. Oh, maybe I wonder if the duration, you think on infinite.
Delay.
Oh, delay. Let's do that. There we go. Let's do like a 1 second delay. Because that'll be creepier. So you can imagine it would be like you'd be a scene, something be there, and then a second later it would suddenly like lock onto you. So that's how AIM works. Super cool. I see lots of potential with that one. And you can also create, so say we just wanted him to face a certain way, not an object. You can actually go here and do anchor. No. How did I do that? I was able to create like a pin. Maybe it doesn't work with AIM though. It definitely works with one of the other ones. Did I? AIM, camera, anchor. Oh yeah, so if there's no object in the scene, that's when, see this little plus guy here? If I click on that, it's actually going to create this invisible pin that I can put there. So nobody will see it in the scene, and you'll see if we go back to preview, he's just going to look that way. So that's AIM. Now there's show hide. Let's get our action menu up. So I'm not going to do show hide, but they're quite cool. They basically let you like make an object invisible. So if you started a scene like with the armadillo hidden, you could have an action that made them appear. Hide is the same thing. It lets you hide elements in a scene.
Did you then combine that with proximity so that you get it close enough and then appears?
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't think we have time for me to show that, but if we had a bit longer today, I would just I could probably build that out in 2 minutes. Yeah. Is set a proximity to be the trigger for the hide action or for the show action, right? So you could have someone walking in a scene. Maybe there's an arrow even so that they know they need to walk into the scene, and then at a certain point just have something like appear out of nowhere. So and hide again could be quite useful. And that way you can bring in different elements in and out of your scene as well, quite easily. That's probably going to be a workhorse in some of the projects. Now, oh yeah, and there's move, scale, rotate. So those are all like, yeah. So let's get rid of him. Let's grab more of an object. Sure, big sphere. So here on start, we could say let's do let's have it move. Oh, it needs a subject. So remember, if you ever see those things, it's just looking for an object. Let's have it move along the y-axis. So let's have it move 10 centimeters up, and let's have it do it over 5 seconds. And then let's do a follow-up action. So when it gets there, actually, let's do 2 at once just to show it. So let's do move and scale. So let's have it scale over 5 seconds, and let's have it scale to 3 times the size. And let's have it ease in and out, because it's just going to happen. So if we go to preview here. Okay, I'd maybe scale it. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but that was kind of trippy. Now let's do another one here. So I'm going to delete that, and let's put it the move action just to show you how the order of operations work. Let's put the scale afterwards. Let's make it scale twice as big, and let's do it maybe over 2 seconds, and let's speed up the move a little bit. So because we're not patient. All right, so if we go here, it should move up and then get bigger. Cool. I'm still at the point where I'm still amazed when it does what I tell it to. So again, I could see that being useful in scenes as well. I don't know why. Oh,
your move is
move is infinite, I bet. So yeah. So if we go to move here, infinite. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. Very fun. And oh, orbit's pretty cool. Okay, yeah, let's do this. All right. Let's bring back our good friend the armadillo. And let's move him over here for now. All right, scene starts. So let's not move the sphere. Oh, that's interesting how that happens. So the action here is let's orbit. and it needs to know what. So we're gonna orbit. The subject's gonna be the armadillo, but the center is gonna be the sphere. It's gonna last 4 seconds, ease in and out. It's gonna be clockwise. It's gonna happen once. And check this out. We've got an orbiting armadillo. So you can orbit objects around other objects. You could also, is there a no option? There is an anchor option too. So you could have something orbit also around an invisible point in space as well, which could be useful.
And I can't keep them here, but the camera
Yeah.
is also an option for you, or
Sorry?
camera?
Yes, I bet it is. Yeah. Yeah. So you could have something orbiting around, the viewpoint of a person. Actually, I wonder if we'll be able to experience that in preview. Orbit camera. That's the armadillo. Yeah, let's get crazy here. Let's see if I can. Oh, I didn't put it on infinite, did I? Let's put them on infinite. And go back there. And so zoom out a little. Whoa, where did he go?
The radius is equal to your distance.
Yes, okay. There he goes. So now I am like a celestial object with an armadillo rotating around. So you could have somebody in one of your experiences with an object orbiting around them. Just all right.
That's what you need to do if you're.
Now I'm going to show you. Actually, orbit might be my favorite, but also another one I really like. Although you'd have to think about how to use it outside of 3D is the follow, and I'll show you how that works. So let's take this is actually a nice pack here. This origami force pack. Oh, I got a planet there accidentally somehow. Let's grab this hummingbird. So for follow, I found with animated things, things like that fly are better because the animation, it seems more like they're following you, where when something is animated, it has its own like the armadillo and following you, it's not quite as obvious. If that makes sense. So I'm choosing something intentionally. This hummingbird, let's have a look at it. We don't want orbit. We want follow. And hummingbird, we want it to follow the camera. So distance between this is important. So if it gets too close, we won't see it anymore because it'll be like clipped. So let's give it 20 centimeters. That's about that far. Nope. Oh, I can just punch it in there. Okay, there we go. Let's look at some of the things. Duration, let's put it on infinite. Easing, let's do linear because it's an animation. I don't think duration matters once we hit infinite. So let's have a, oh yeah, so before we do that, actually, we need to do something else. So we want it to fly. So let's actually do play animation for the hummingbird. It's only got one animation. It's a flying one. There we go. Oh, it does move around a little bit, but that could still work. I did it with the butterfly before. It worked really well. So now it should follow the camera, and I'm just going to move that above it, even though they play at the same time, just for my own awareness. And let's make sure we're not too close away. We're too close when we preview it, and you'll see it's going to come right up to me. And then actually, if I move away, where'd he go? Did we lose the? We lost him. Yeah. But that's the idea. This is a fun one. I'm actually gonna let's publish that one, and play with it in the space on whose cameras are working. Anyone whose phone's working. So again, all this is going to do is create a hummingbird. And this actually, last time we anchored to something like this. So I kind of want to show you what the experience is like anchoring to a surface. It's a bit different. You have to kind of basically tell the app where you want the surface to be. So let's create that now. And the cool thing is I could send this link or a QR code to, you know, my friend halfway around the world, and they can open it up in their space and have this experience. Okay, and yeah, so if your phone is working for this, I would recommend taking a snapshot of that. You might still have the last one open. I'd recommend shutting it down completely and starting again. And then I'll talk through what this tends to look like. So again, if you're out there in land, so it's going to come up with this Adobe Aero Interactive Reality. I press open. If you have a newer phone, it's going to be pretty seamless. It's going to show my picture there. I'll hit continue. And then it's going to ask me to find a surface to actually put it on. So I'm going to move my phone around until it finds a surface. And I found that this is not, you're going to want to pick places where surfaces get identified more easily. But so now I've got one here. I'm going to click on it. Oh, open. And
You gotta come way there.
yeah, but that.
Kind of dark over there.
Yeah.
It means,
Better lighting might help find surfaces.
what about this red?
Oh, there we go. I got a space. Okay, so you can see here now the bird is gonna.
We just did it once and then it went away.
Oh, we must not have it set on infinite. Oh yeah, you can see it's stopping. But that's sort of the general idea. Is that yeah? So we want to tweak the animation. That's where that's where you really need to work inside the app, but then you need to actually experience it in real life to see how it's going to happen. So for example, you know, when I use my phone 8 times out of 10, does it find a surface, or do we need better lighting, or you know, do I need a space that's less messy? As you saw there, I noticed the bird stopped, so that's a good clue. And I'm going to show you something else now. So the bird stopped. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go. Where's our hummingbird? We're going to set that to infinite, so it doesn't stop. We don't need a transition. Actually, we might. Let's go to our camera. Using linear. Let's put him back a little bit further, maybe 30 centimeters. It's okay, good. And then we're going to go back. Now that we made those changes, we go back to share. You'll see here instead of uploading, it's got this apply changes. Now what's really cool here is when I hit apply changes, it keeps the same link and the same QR code. So that means anybody that already has that link will get the new version of it. So again, we're hoping that the hummingbird's going to keep flying once it's done. So again, if we go back and try that again. Let's open it up and let's find a surface for it. Seem to like over there.
There it is.
Oh. Did you get it to go show up on something?
Yeah, it's there. It's kind of briefly. I have to kind of go away and
Sure.
come back. Ooh, not very fast, like very fast.
Try that again. Okay.
Ooh.
There we go. And yeah, so now you can, well, let's actually see if it stops. Oh, he zipped away.
Step back.
Oh yeah, there he is. Yeah. Okay. So that's the general idea of follow. So again, follow could be quite cool. You can have something following someone around a scene. Yeah, maybe set it further back. There was a way, some of the animations, you can get things to return to their starting position, I think. So that could be a way to, yeah, to have something not move very far. Or what was the other one? Treadmill?
Yeah.
Yeah. Although no, treadmill and follow wouldn't work nicely together because
They might. I don't know.
Right.
Because it would play an animation relative to your camera.
Yeah, it might work. I'd like to try it, but again, I know we're actually we're doing great for time, but we're just wrapping up. But yeah, so that could be something to try out too. Treadmill may have it, you know, keep moving forward with you each time.
Treadmill, aim, follow, all of them.
Oh yeah, so something I didn't do there too. So, oh yeah, because we had, there's one other one too. That was follow orbit. We did aim, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. Good. We actually got through. Oh, we lost that again. So, and I'll share my screen again. We know at least what to do this time. So that's it. So again, publish and share. So there's a few ways to do things, right? So for example, I'm just going to show you a quick picture here when I was playing around. Go here. Yeah, so I just so I just took a picture of a guy in the office with a giant astronaut beside him. So you could create art that's like, you could create imagery basically as the outcome of the augmented reality process. All right. So that's a way to do things. You can actually record video of what you're seeing through the camera, but I think you need to use the Adobe Aero app to do that. There's a way to view and experience and record at the same time.
It automatically brings up and record things. So as soon as you're in the view of anything,
cool.
You got it, and you can click and record your
Yeah,
experience.
and then of course the other way is publishing via Adobe. You saw it's not perfect by any means. The surfaces, I find it has trouble sometimes. The anchor works really well, but the surfaces, if it's messy at all, you know, it seems to have some trouble sometimes finding a surface. So I would definitely, if you're gonna use that, just make sure that you test a lot in that space. And yeah, if it was in a public area, test at different times of the day when the lighting's different and see if it still works. The nice thing about QR codes is you can actually leave them in physical locations for people. Although, yeah, if I didn't know about Adobe Aero and my phone started asking me if I wanted to start downloading software, I'd be a bit nervous, you know. But if people knew there was an experience and that was the way to do it. Links are cool though, because you can share them, you know, over distances. The updating I showed you guys, again, mobile app, use that for tweaking. And yeah, that was kind of the big overview of the software. I'm a little sad to hear that, yeah, some people are having trouble working on their machines. I guess that's something for the group to consider for sure, you know. If you have enough capacity to, like I said, you could break the project up into different parts, and one person's job could be the compositing the scene in AR, other people's could be creating the assets, audio files, imagery, stuff like that.
Where's a good place to start with learning how to create assets?
The Google. So yeah, like if you pick something like, say, like I want to make a animated PNG series, if you just Google it, there's going to be like a gazillion videos. I've been out of 3D stuff for a while, but this kind of got me interested again. So and again, say if you wanted to get into 3D modeling, there's a lot of environments out there. I would Google something like, what's a good 3D modeling environment for beginners? You know, Blender is one that's pretty powerful and it's free, but it is more complicated. You might know SketchUp. So that's the most probably accessible for someone new.
Yeah, and you could take those assets, you 3D print it, you can bring them into the AR. Pretty simple, and there's some good YouTube tutorials on how to do either one of those things. But that's going to be you can run SketchUp in your browser without downloading anything.
Nice.
It says SketchUp transfer to Blender usually, or
I think you export the certain file types.
But to learn how to do SketchUp, and then
the user interface is different,
very different.
but Blender is way more powerful. So if you can do videos, animations, all in one application?
For animation special effects, if you're comfortable in the Adobe Creative Suite, After Effects to go through their tutorials, you'll be able to create some really basic animations pretty quickly. They've got a lot of tools to make that workflow pretty quick. It's a bit intimidating at first, but again, just start with those videos. If you've got 2 screens, put the one on one screen, one on the other, because that's a good way to get into animation too.
I think another software that's free, that's been a number of years since I used it, is Houdini.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
But I don't know if it's still around. I just remember when I was in high school, I used it, and it was free at that time.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a lot of, the interface was a lot of drag and drop sort of thing. So
Was it for 3D?
yes.
Yeah. So probably I think SketchUp's going to be like your best bet now. It's going to have the most tutorials, and you'll be able to export models you can import into this and other 3D modeling environments if you get there.
I think it depends on what you want to make, right? If it's, hey, I want to make a person walking, like SketchUp's not going to handle that, but making it, figuring out 3D space, physical objects,
More static.
no problems. Yeah. Blender for sure, you could do actual animation.
And there's also a gazillion 3D objects that exist on the internet now. You can download and print a gun. So it's like there's like so many things out there. So those are resources that just with a bit of fluency around 3D models, like for example, understanding what format you need to bring something into this, and then understanding, oh, I might need to scale that object, you know. Or it might not be centered on 0, 0, 0. I might actually have to move it to that spot. You know, you could get a lot of mileage that way too. Any questions? I know, Connie, we had some questions from the students. Yeah. Sure.
I'm mostly fascinated by this grid and that we can see underneath.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of the underneath? It's like the underworld. Like, can we create under there?
That's
What is under there?
That's a negative Z space. In terms of your experience on your phone, I guess I don't think you would see something that's under the.
It's just in relation to a surface. So like if you had a surface that was a table, and that's where you were building to in the real world, you might want it to fall off. So like that grid is just a 0 mark,
right?
And it might exist.
You're deciding where the bottom is.
Right.
Theoretically, you can go below the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how that'll appear in how they'll render it.
It doesn't disappear because like none of the it's invisible, and the objects are always superimposed on top of the real world. I mean, you would just see it get smaller and smaller.
Yeah, would it sink into the floor? Again, that's something that would be really easy to experiment. You know, use a trigger that moves something and just move it. Like, see if you could actually. It could be a cool effect to see something like, you know, or come up from the floor. You know, like.
I think it just doesn't know. It doesn't treat it as an actual cutoff.
Yeah, I want to work with dancers and augmented reality where they're dancing, interacting with augmented reality objects, and the audience actually has to look through their phone to see both the dancers and the objects they're interacting with. I think that'd be quite cool. That's one to talk.
So basically, when it's like this, this is surface related thing, the floor, a table, and then you had it, if you were going to have a painting on the wall and you want to do augmented reality, so you would need to change that.
Yeah, so that's so if you just to make it easier, you could put a painting and have it oriented the right way with a horizontal surface. The vertical surface just makes it a bit easier to make sure everything's lining up on the same plane. But and again, like you know more about 3D than I do, so that's the case, right? Like there's no reason I couldn't put a painting, you know, flush against that.
It seems sort of fine. And if you're using the Aero app with your phone, like kind of when you start a space, it'll find a surface, you wave it around. If you kind of are waving at a wall, it'll select and go like, hey, this is a vertical surface, and it makes it easy to just like
now
stick things.
Because I haven't used the phone for that yet. Will it, if you've selected in here, you want it to be a horizontal surface, I'm guessing it's just looking for horizontal, not vertical, right? So that would, so that's where the vertical surface would be important, because it helps the app know like what plane that you want your object to actually, anchor onto. Again, those are called anchors.
And in here, so say I have a painting, I know
Yeah.
the Art Gallery Victoria did this a while, they had paintings on the wall and an exhibit, but then you could go to a QR code and then stare at the painting and then.
And it would do stuff.
So if I have one still image.
Yeah.
That I then wanna do this AR with.
Yeah.
Am I able to put the image there so I can see it to know where I wanna place things?
Sure.
Yeah,
Can I
absolutely.
import that image?
Yeah,
So
you
this
can.
whole white space is an image?
Like the entire box an image.
What is the dimension?
Well,
Are
so-
we talking feet here, a block?
You can
like-
make it whatever you want. So you
Okay.
can make
Yeah.
it real world, and then you'd look at the dimensions.
Right, so I could say the painting is 8 by 10, I could make that 8 by
Yeah.
10, and then, okay, just trying to.
Yeah.
I'm getting-
And remember, for a painting, if you want something to overlap right on top of it, that's where you might want to use an image, which is that third one, right? Where I actually select an image from my computer of that painting. If you want to be able to overlap it perfectly.
A picture to stick on. I
Uh,
don't know if it's
for
a-
image? That's why I printed these out, because you kind of need something in the real world that you have an image of, right? To set, like, because I need to pick an image file on my computer for it to know what to look for.
But we've seen that, but I've
Yeah.
not seen you put any, I'm asking
To put something on the wall,
on that white grid.
like on the,
I'm sitting at my
yeah.
computer and
Yeah.
I know that. I'm gonna have a painting in the gallery, I'm saying painting, I don't even
Yeah.
paint, but I'm gonna have a painting in the gallery.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna have a QR code and I want people to see an animation happen on top of it. When I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Can I not stick the painting right there?
Yeah,
So
you
then
could,
I
you could just
Yeah.
take a photo,
Yeah.
stick it there, and you could scale everything to it.
Okay.
More importantly, I guess you'd want to scale your picture, like you'd want to kind of know how big is the frame or whatever,
Right.
and then make it in there. How big is it? How high up?
Outside.
Just so you have those references,
Yeah.
and then. Yeah.
Okay. I kind of get it,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can bring objects and pictures into the environment, no problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That then aren't part.
You just delete that image.
Yeah.
Yeah,
delete it.
I got you. Just as a reference. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
It's as a reference point.
Yeah.
at that-
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And you just delete it afterwards, right? I don't. You can hide things. I don't think you can make layers, like there's no opacity control, which is sometimes nice for doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But because you're in a 3D space, though, you could actually like look around things. So
Right.
yeah. Cool. Any other questions? And let's, there were a couple of questions.
I have a question.
Awesome. And I was just gonna say, I've got a couple of questions from Connie, from you guys about stuff that's not related to Aero. So tonight, because again, we're wrapping up, I'd like to stick it to Aero, but I am hoping to, I'll answer those questions later by email. And I'm actually talking with Heidi about potentially having a couple hours a week, kind of for office hours for you guys, whether it's a Slack or a video meeting or something. We're gonna chat about that after. Sorry, Heidi, if don't know if I'm supposed to talk about that or not, because I know it's not been decided yet, but okay, question. And it's got to be AR based.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
So this is Connie. I'm wondering, I don't know if I missed it or not, but did you
Yeah.
speak about uploading video?
Yeah, so video's not video. I've seen video in Aero work, but so far it doesn't look like Aero supports a video. What you'd have to do is make a sequence of frames, like an animation almost. If that makes sense.
I see. I thought there was some hack.
So there could be, and I'm sure
That's what the hack is?
the hack right now, as far as I know, and again, this would be a good Google one. Just right, does Aero support video? I didn't see it anywhere, but I do know because it can take in a series of frames and create an image animation with them. You
Right.
could definitely take the frames from a video and do that. The thing you need to be careful with is file size, because
Of course, yeah.
big pretty quickly, but for a short 5-second video or something. And I think you can even export like from like a Premiere or Final Cut. You can actually export things as just a series of image frames.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Video.
Yeah.
So it plays for 5 seconds, it loops, and we just exported it as a GIF.
Right. Yeah. And so and
sized it and it works.
Yeah.
So how long can a GIF be, Valerie?
GIFs aren't long normally.
They're normally not
Could
long.
make it, I mean, you can make a
They're-
whole movie. but
The problem, yeah, the problem with GIFs is they take up a lot of space. I know that because we were creating animated GIFs for a campaign last year, a marketing campaign, and they turn your web page slows to a halt from them because it's a really inefficient way to like store video, but you could do it. The thing is, I would keep the dimensions smallish, like I wouldn't do like 4K, and I would definitely lower the frame rate if possible, and not have it be too long. Again, it's about taking the limitations of the technology. Video works great in VR actually, like but yeah, and I'm sure it's something that's on Adobe's radar, but video in I don't know why you don't see it as much in augmented reality. It's definitely possible in other environments because I've seen samples of work where video's embedded into scenes. I always find it looks a bit funny, to be honest, in 3D spaces, but a bit out of place. Because I'm kind of wanting things to be in 3 dimensions, and it's like a very it would be cool if you could take video layers and separate them, but that's a whole other thing. You probably could do some kind of animation with, anyway, I'm getting out there, but yeah, so the short answer is yes, but you've kind of got you kind of need to use a workaround and just be careful about length and size and frame rate.
Okay, thanks for that.
Any other Aero or augmented reality based questions? All right. Any AR project ideas? I mean, we're past time, so you guys don't need to talk about that if you want, but has anybody been inspired or had any ideas or even, do you want to talk about it a little bit, or it's too early?
We're building we've got a physical thing that's going to exist in the gallery, and I hope is to also use that as like, or at least in part as the AR elements, but then we're adding video or animations, as well as I'm playing with adding just some 3D objects within that space. So I mean, how that all comes together at this point is still
to be determined.
With it, but we wanted to mix a little bit of have a physical thing there, so you can I think it works well to scale things, and you can still move around something, and then the AR you can add to it.
So there are other ways to do mixed reality. For example, projection mapping is another way, and I've been working with MadMapper recently, and it's actually it's more accessible than I thought. I think a lot of people are intimidated by it, but it's just it just takes, it's a bit meticulous. But same as building 3D models, but it's actually it's more accessible than I thought it was, and that's another way to superimpose something that's onto reality, although not in the same. I find augmented reality kind of interesting. I feel it does something to my brain, when you're kind of seeing something that's not there but it's there. I don't know, it messes with my head a bit, and I kind of like that. But I feel there could be some really like interesting conceptual work done in that space, and you could create experiences that are completely new, that people haven't felt before or experienced before.
Projection mapping, like, when it's on.
Yeah, it's like when you have a projector in a space, and then you have like a little
Like your lightning bulb, all these projection.
You create a mask so it only hits the object, and then that's the most basic version. The more advanced version is the software is actually aware of the depth of the object and transforms the video based on the depth information.
This is cool though, because I was thinking, because I was gonna like buildings like lightning bolt structures. That's cool, but I'm also it's leading into what we're doing. But now I'm just thinking, because I was gonna do 2 projection mappings on either side of lightning bolts, but now it's like I could do augmented and projection.
And you could use the lightning bolt as an anchor, right? And then create some kind of animation around it, like it could be shooting sparks out everywhere. Yeah, we're getting awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. That was fun. I actually enjoyed working on this a lot. Yeah. And yeah, again, you're pretty much as much experts now in Aero as I am. So, but if you have questions, yeah, I'm happy to do research. I'm usually good. I'm good at figuring stuff out. And yeah, lean on, if you get into 3D stuff, definitely lean on Evan. Because Evan spends 40 hours a week in 3D environments. So, you know. Cool. Well, thanks everybody. And